I am not teaching, I am publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in UK. It is part 474 by doing leg stretching. And if you participate in the leg stretching, that's the arm risk. Now we're starting with the leg stretching. We're having both legs in front. We're having the toes together and we're putting the toes in. You can also go in front and pull. Now we have 3 videos prepared. The idea is that we're going from subject to subject over the whole book and then making a little separate video where we explain it in one down. So instead of writing our own little thing to it, we are just doing it in the video, which other people can also watch. Now, and let's try it actually this time, this video, while we're doing leg stretching. So we're starting behind the War with France. How do we name that video? Overview of the War with France in the 18th century, or at the turn of the 18th century. Little overview of Britain and the Napoleonic Wars. What is not important, we're going to do a little video now. I think I know it all. So I have the first camera running here for stretching, and there I have a second one where I try to make now in a minute this all down. We have time for multiple takes. So next exercise, and let's actually do it while we do the stretching. In the year 1789 there was the French Revolution in France, and soon came the war between Britain and France. Napoleon became the Emperor of France, and the war continued. In the year 1805 there was the Battle of Trafalgar, and in that battle the British Navy defeated the French and Spanish combined army. In that battle, the Battle of Trafalgar, 1805, Admiral Nelson led the British Navy, and he died in that battle. And at Trafalgar Square in London there's a column for him as a monument. And his ship, the HMS Victory, can be seen in Portsmouth. In the year 1805 there was the Battle of Waterloo, and that ended the Napoleonic Wars. And in that Battle of Waterloo, the commander of the British troops was Wellington, also called the Iron Duke, and Wellington also then became Prime Minister at one time. And that is according to the Life in UK Test Handbook, page 38 and 39. Next exercise. Yes, that's a little problem. I already said it. Doing the exercise is a little too long. It's not that here it's a leg stretching exercise, but it's a little problem. Now we're going to do it to that side here. And the next one is even the American War of Independence. I need a little other title. That's fun enough. 1760. Substantial British colonies in North America. They had gone there for religious freedom. They believed in ideas of liberty. They had strong interest in ideas of liberty. And the British government wanted to tax them. The British Parliament, can I also say. But they said no taxation without representation in the British Parliament. And so fighting broke out in the year 1776. 13 American colonies declared independence, and all the colonies actually won the war, or America won the war, or the United States won the war. They can say what they want. Basically, it's such a short video that I can put it a bit simplified. And actually, in the year 1783, they were recognized as an independent country, or independent colonies. I don't know what I can say there. I don't think it matters by such a short video. So that was the stretching, this exercise. I'm going to stop now the camera for that video which we did about the Napoleonic Wars. And I'm starting it again directly. And we're going to do the next exercise, the card racer. So we're having 90-90 position with the legs. We have our hands at the knee behind of us, and we're leaning in front with shoulder to knee in front of us. And we're not going to shoot the video while we're doing the card racer. We're going to prepare the next video. So the Union flag. Can we do something to that? I think yes, we can actually describe it. I don't want to show the book. Maybe at the end, but I don't want to show the book as a representation. So we're just going to do the Act of Union 1800. We're just going to do the Act of Union and then a separate video to the flags. Ireland had around 1800, or since around 1500, under Henry VIII, Ireland had the same monarch as England and Wales, but it was still a separate country. When there happened the Act of Union of 1800, And maybe that is the difference. The other one is just the Act of Union, and that is the Act of Union of 1800. And with the Act of Union 1800 in the year 1801, Ireland became unified with England, Scotland and Wales. And that created the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. And they now needed a symbol, and that was a new version of the official flag. Or they got an official flag called the Union Jack, or the Union flag. And that flag combines the crosses associated with England, Scotland and Ireland. Next exercise. Oh, it's the same exercise, but not with the other leg. And that flag is still used today as the official flag of the United Kingdom. And the Union flag, do we explain it then? Let's explain it later. So the cross of St. George is a red cross and white background. That is the one in the middle, the red cross in the middle and then the white stripes. The cross of St. Andrew is a diagonal white cross. That is the ones from left to right here. And the blue background also. And the cross of St. Patrick is a diagonal red cross on a white background. Diagonal white cross, diagonal red cross. What is now the diagonal right? I don't think I'm going to explain that then. The Union Jack. They got a flag, the Union Jack. Next exercise, we are just in 1990 and we're going in front. Now we're trying to do this video about the War of Independence, however we're going to call it. In the 1760s, there were substantial British colonies in North America. And the people who were there had settled there because they believed in religious freedom, which they got there. And they had also interest in ideas of liberty. Now, the British government wanted to tax the British colonies, but they said no taxation without representation in the British Parliament. And so fighting broke out, and eventually in the year 1776, 13 of these colonies declared their independence. And the war happened, but these 13 colonies won the war, and in the year 1783 they were recognized by Britain as independent. And that is according to the Life in the UK Test Handbook, page 38. I'm going to set the camera and start it again. And now we're doing the exercise on the other side. 1990 with the legs. And we're going just... No, we don't do that. We're doing the pigeon pose. Doing first the pigeon pose like that. And now, if you know how to do the pigeon pose before to injure yourself, you can do the pigeon pose. Okay. Do we now try? Yes, let's try now. We have around 2 minutes or so. Can we do the pigeon pose? The slave trade. Abolish it. Let's try it. It's a bit complex, but maybe you only need one to try it. The slave trade. In the 18th century, there was the slave trade. British ships were taking people, mainly in Western Africa, and transporting them under horrible conditions oftentimes to the Caribbean and to Northern America. They were then forced to work on sugar or tobacco plantations, for example. The living conditions of these slaves were hard. In Britain then, in the late 1700s, first former anti-slavery groups started to form by Quakers. And there was when, for example, William Wilberforce, an evangelical Christian in the Parliament, and in the year 1807, it was then able to turn the public opinion against the slave trade. So in the year 1807, where the slave trade was abolished in the British Empire. I wanted to say a thing about And then the first it was it Sir? No, it was just William Wilberforce. The next thing was there anything named? Just it became illegal, 1897, no act named the other thing, Emancipation Act. That was the first thing, that was the second and third thing. And then I wanted also to say that slavery was illegal, and there were other differences. Illegal in Britain itself, but it were British ships who did it. Then it became forbidden for British ships to do it, or from British ports. And then 1833 slavery was ended in the whole empire. And also other ships were stopped. Okay, and we're going to the other leg of the pigeon pole. No, first the 1990s. We could try it actually. The slave trade. In the 18th century, there was a slave trade. British ships were taking people in Western Africa as slaves and bringing them to the Caribbean and to Northern America. The travel was under hard conditions, and also when the living conditions were hard. Many people also died on the travel, and also during slavery they had went to work, for example, on tobacco and sugar plantations. Now in Britain in the late 1700s there were the first anti-slavery groups formed by Quakers, and there was also William Wilberforce, an evangelical Christian, in the parliament, and in the year 1807 it was then able to turn the public opinion against the slave trade. So in the year 1807 the slave trade became illegal. Inside of Britain, slavery was already illegal, but the slave trade did happen. Now in the year 1807, the slave trade became also illegal. Then in the year 1833, the Emancipation Act followed. So 1833, all the slaves in the British Empire were freed. And Britain also started to stop ships who were of other countries who were bringing slaves from somewhere to somewhere else, to arrest them, the people who were doing that, to free the slaves, and to punish the people who were committing that. And 1833, following the Emancipation Act of 1833, 2 million slaves were freed, or better, 2 million people were employed of Indian and Chinese workers to, it were 2 million people were employed, not freed. Here is only written employed. Okay, the pigeon pose. Last try. Do the pigeon pose, I don't even know how to do it. In the 18th century, there was the slave trade. British ships were taking slaves in Western Africa and transporting them under horrible conditions to the Caribbean and to Northern America, where they had to work, for example, in tobacco and sugar plantations, and the living conditions were very grave. Very severe, very bad. Inside of Britain, slavery was illegal, but it were British ships who did the slave trade. Now, then in the late 1700s, there were the first anti-slavery groups formed by Quakers, and also, for example, there was William Wilberforce. He was a member of a parliament, an evangelical Christian. And in the year 1807, then the slave trade became illegal. So, it was already in Britain illegal to have slaves, but it were British ships who were doing the slave trade. 1807, it became illegal that British ships were doing the slave trade, or that slave ships are running from British ports. When in 1833, the Emancipation Act followed, and the Emancipation Act said that all slaves were freed, and Britain started to stop slave trading ships, also of other countries, to free the slaves and to punish the people doing the slave trade. And then 2 million Indian and Chinese workers were employed to replace the freed slaves, working then as soldiers in Kenya or on railways in Eastern Africa, on mines in Southern Africa. So, inside of Britain, slavery was illegal, but British ships were doing the slave trade. 1807, for example, through anti-slavery groups or through people like William Wilberforce, when the public opinion was turned against the slave trade, in 1807 slave trading became illegal. 1833, Emancipation Act, and all slaves throughout the whole British Empire were freed. And that is according to the Life in UK Test Handbook, page 37 and 38. Now we're running out of time. we have a video with the leg stretching, and I think we're also done with that exercise. So we're going just the butterfly stretch. We're having the soles of the feet together, and we're sitting tall up and we're going in front. I think, so we did the video to the slave trade, abolishing, we did the American War of Independence, and also the War of France. So we did all three. So we can in the next video directly go to the flag of a union. I thank you very much, and until the next time.